You might be thinking, what is up with the title of the video? Well, today I wanted to have a look at one of the most heavily used websites on the internet, Wikipedia, and its relationship to COVID-19. Yes, some of you are already thinking Wikipedia is not always reliable, but it is still useful to use their pages as an illustration of where many people go for information, or what we might call the mainstream view. Indeed, most search engines list Wikipedia as the first hit for many topics. Now, one of the themes of the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is how first appearances can be deceiving. So let's delve into what Wiki is saying about COVID-19. It has become very common to hear generally held beliefs in the media and everyday conversations being put forward as though they are indisputable facts. But where are people sourcing this information, and is it backed up by valid scientific material? As many of you know, one of my favourite pursuits has become keeping tabs on the virus hunters. Now, to preempt the fact checkers and censors, my discussion is not making claims about COVID-19. It is an exercise in following public source material and analysing whether the references given are suitable for the statements that have been published. Now, I'm not dismissing all Wikipedia pages as inadequately referenced. Perhaps if you look up something like helium, you might get some reliable, non-political and unbiased information. But I'd love to hear from some chemists or physicists if this is not the case either. So let's explore COVID-19 on Wikipedia to see where it leads us. The simple English Wikipedia page for coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 opens with coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, as an infectious disease caused by SARS-CoV-2, and gives a reference for this. If we follow this link, we go to a WHO page on technical guidance with the heading naming the coronavirus disease COVID-19 and the virus that causes it. Now, this page contains no particular information that allows us to conclude that SARS-CoV-2 is an infectious agent, etc. It simply describes the nomenclature of COVID-19 and the suspected agent. Don't get me wrong, the WHO haven't made any false claims here. They're just talking about labels. My concern is that this link did not prove Wikipedia's statement on COVID-19 in any way. The second sentence states that the disease is the cause of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, that doesn't add much there, but there are two new references given, so perhaps we can find the evidence what was lacking for the first sentence. The first reference leads to an article in the International Journal of Infectious Diseases. This article is more of a state of play commentary and provides no original research that would back up the Wikipedia statement. It states the Chinese scientists were able to isolate a 2019 nCoV from a patient within a short time on the 7th of January 2020 and performed genome sequencing of the 2019 nCoV. Now, as you know, I've talked about the problems of this so-called isolation before, and we also cover it in the recently released new edition of Virus Mania. Detection of genetic material does not mean that you've established a viable organism or an infectious agent. The article goes on to talk about the cases under observation at the time and even state there is currently no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission. Then it drifts into speculation stating, while it appears to be transmitted to human via animals, the specific animals and other reservoirs need to be identified. Okay. So there is no direct evidence for this animal-to-human transmission, but clearly it is stimulating for the authors, and they propose a virus safari. The second reference is a WHO COVID-19 Q&A page. Again, this is not a source scientific document and doesn't cite any references, so I'm not yet convinced that we have the correct evidence required to confirm the first few sentences in the Wikipedia article. Time to step it up a notch and go to the hopefully more comprehensive Wikipedia page on coronavirus disease 2019. This opens with coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, is a contagious disease caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2. This time the reference given is there is no reference given at all. On to the second sentence, which states, the first case was identified in Wuhan, China in December 2019. For this, there is a reference which leads to a Wall Street Journal article titled, In Hunt for COVID-19 Origin, Patient Zero Points to Second Wuhan Market. This article was published only a few weeks ago, so seems an odd reference for the apparent first case of COVID-19. In any case, I'll give you some of the highlights and you can draw your own conclusions. Number 1, apparently Chinese authorities said the first confirmed victim was a Wuhan resident surnamed Chen who fell sick on December 8, 2019. No further details given on how this was established. Number 2, the virus might have first jumped from an animal to a human. Number 3, the putative patient 0 met the WHO investigators and told them that his parents had visited another local community food market. People visiting markets. Is that particularly significant? According to the authors, it was a revelation. Number 4, but then the article states Wuhan, with a population of 11 million, has some 400 food markets. So it seems the article points to no specific scientific source material and is essentially speculative and hearsay in nature. At least the authors admit to the lack of details surrounding the first known case. As a little segue with regards to the putative origins of epidemics, we do cover this in the latest version of Virus Mania. Here we explain that the practice of clustering is employed, which involves a quick scan of your environment, hospitals, daycares, local bars, etc., to locate 1, 2 or a few individuals with the same or similar symptoms. It doesn't matter if these individuals have never had close contact with each other, or even that they've been ill at intervals of weeks or even months. So clusters can deliver no key clues or provide actual proof of an existing or imminent microbial epidemic. Right, so back to our Wikipedia page on COVID-19. The next sentence states, the disease has since spread worldwide, leading to an ongoing pandemic. However, the nature of the reference given for this is clearly stated at the start. It's an opinion piece in the New York Times. The opinion piece in no way questions what the case definition is or how it is diagnosed, and there is no critical analysis of what were all called COVID deaths, not exactly reference material. The Wikipedia page could have simply quoted the meaningless Worldometer coronavirus statistics. Again, these so-called references are quite distracting, and something that amused me in the New York Times piece was the following claim. Viruses that infect animals have evolved the wherewithal to infect our species. HIV arose from primate viruses. Influenza came from birds, and SARS-CoV-2, no matter what conspiracy-minded people may say, evolved from bat coronaviruses. Our Virus Mania team has never found solid evidence that would confirm any of the author's claim. I even made a video that covers the highly speculative nature of the bat coronavirus claims and the lack of any direct evidence. But the author didn't stop there with his bold claims, and the next paragraph states, in just the past 2 months, evolution has rejuvenated the pandemic. Lineages of SARS-CoV-2 are picking up mutations that are giving them a competitive edge. Natural selection is unleashing surges of new variants across entire countries, raising worries that existing vaccines won't work as well as we originally hoped. But where do we find the clinical research that establishes the nature of all these new strains? I've heard people pontificating about them in press conferences in Public Health England, even publishes putative genomic sequences of the so-called new strains. But detecting sequences of genetic material does not mean you can conclude that you've identified a new pathogen that is passing around the population and causing illness. Here is the inventor of PCR, Carrie Mullis, talking about how the mere detection of this RNA can lead to the wrong conclusions.
They're coming up with new ones. There's new things that have been blamed on retroviruses. And the very first thing that people have to recognize when dealing with them, that they're dealing with the whole, they're not just dealing with one single thing, like one sequence is not. Just because you can only detect that one. See, that, you know, there aren't any nice tests for retrovirity in general. There aren't any tests, so you could give them to people and say, my God, people have got all kinds of retroviruses.
Even if it is formally established that the detection of these sequences is specific to one entity, by the way, large cash prize available here if you can fully characterize SARS-CoV-2, we still have the problem that so-called coronavirus sequences, whatever you think they are are ubiquitous on the planet, and this alleged identification of strains can go on indefinitely. Genetic material is in and around us everywhere. Simply create some new PCR primers and mix it with a sample to find the new strain. But before I get too distracted, I better get back to the task, as we've only covered the first 3 sentences of the Wikipedia page. The next sentence states, symptoms of COVID-19 are variable, but often include fever, cough, fatigue, breathing difficulties, and loss of smell and taste. That is hyperlinked to another Wikipedia page which starts with, symptoms of COVID-19 are variable, ranging from mild symptoms to severe illness. Here we learn that common symptoms include headache, loss of smell and taste, nasal congestion and rhinorrhea, cough, muscle pain, sore throat, fever, diarrhea, and breathing difficulties. Okay, so all of these are non-specific and could be consistent with cold and flu symptoms. I covered this in my What is a COVID-19 case video and pointed out that a Cochrane review concluded, based on currently available data, neither absence nor presence of signs or symptoms are accurate enough to rule in or rule out disease. Even their updated publication on February 23rd this year has the same conclusion. Hence, back on the Wikipedia page, we'll skip the middle part of the first paragraph, which goes on more about symptoms. Here they use a European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control reference, which again doesn't allow you to make any conclusions about differentiation from other similar illnesses. The Wikipedia page's last sentence, however, is one that caught my eye, as this theme seems to come up frequently. In people without prior ears, nose and throat disorders, loss of taste combined with loss of smell is associated with COVID-19. Indeed, as far back as March 2020, virologist Dr. Hendrik Streeck proudly announced, "We discovered new symptoms," referring to loss of smell and taste. If you ask your grandma about this, I'm not sure that she would believe that loss of smell and taste are new symptoms in this setting. However, statements like those of Streeck have caused a great deal of excitement, and all sorts of fantastic articles have appeared to explain what is going on. The reference given on the Wikipedia page is The Neurological Manifestations of COVID-19, a review article. It's pretty hard to talk about this paper with a straight face. They state that the diagnosis of COVID-19 is made through suspicious clinical symptoms and imaging.
Jinkies, that's impressive.
Suspicious. There's also a cut and paste style diagram purporting to show the deadly vicious cycle of pneumonia, hypoxia, and cardiorespiratory regulation nuclei of brainstem. I think we've got to hand it to them that it's a flashy paper for a medical journal. Anyway, they report that more than 1/3 of COVID-19 patients present neurological symptoms during the course of the disease. That seems a pretty high figure, but unlike the Cochrane review, the authors don't seem to care about how their data is gathered. Apparently, anosmia and ageusia are the most common PNS or peripheral nervous system manifestations of SARS-CoV-2. This is a bit odd, declaring that loss of smell and taste are neurological manifestations. It's quite probable that this happens simply because the nasal passages are blocked. But the icing on the cake comes when they declare anosmia and ageusia are mostly present in asymptomatic individuals. So these are the symptoms that we mostly see in people who have no symptoms. Is this really the top shelf reference for the Wikipedia claims? I'll leave the analysis there because this could go on indefinitely as we follow the links. I think it illustrates that many of the assertions on Wikipedia are not backed up by acceptable evidence. Could this be happening in other places too? It becomes problematic as many of these themes creep into the daily lexicon and people repeat them as though they are well-established facts. Some authors might describe it as a deadly, vicious cycle, perhaps. Now, I'd like to finish on an optimistic note. With regards to what is being repeated mantra-like at the moment to the world's population, here are the thoughts from someone that has imparted a great deal of wisdom to me.
But beyond that, you do not need to listen for 1, 2, or 3 hours of 5 people on the screen talking to each other how dreadful the situation is. And so because you absorb that, and don't expose yourself to unnecessary risks of catching collective mental viruses.
Also, in this current climate of deplatforming, anyone who is counter the narrative, I want to ask you to please take a look at my Odyssey or library channel. For those of you who don't know Odyssey, it's a free video platform that is completely decentralized with no censorship of its creators. I really love this platform, and I'm going to publish some Odyssey exclusive content on there coming up, especially on COVID. I don't want to lose contact with you, so please come and take a look and subscribe to me there. Like and please share this video. I look forward to seeing you again soon. To help sustain my channel in this time of censorship, please support my work on Subscribestar. Link is in the description.